The rain hammered the chapel roof like 1,000 tiny accusations, each drop a reminder of how far I'd fallen from the boy who once dreamed of escaping this godforsaken town. My mother's casket sat at the front, polished oak gleaming under the fluorescent lights, but no one was looking at her. They were all staring at me, their eyes sharp as switchblades, calculating how much of her meager estate I could cough up to keep the lights on in their crumbling lives. "Elias, you wouldn't let your own blood go under, would you?" My brother Jake hissed from the pew behind me, his breath hot and boozy against my neck, and in that split second, as the organ wheezed out a half-hearted hymn, the doors creaked open, and there he was, Cameron, striding in like a storm breaking, his presence sucking the air from the room and igniting everything I'd fought to bury. I froze, my knuckles white on the edge of the pew, because in that moment, with the scent of wet earth and lilies choking the air, I knew my carefully constructed walls were about to shatter. Cameron didn't belong here, in this viper's nest of a family that had spent years bleeding me dry, treating me like their personal piggy bank ever since Dad walked out when I was 12. He'd flown in from Seattle on the red-eye, no doubt, leaving behind the life we'd built brick by painstaking brick, just because I'd whispered into the phone last night, "I can't do this alone." But seeing him now, his jaw set like granite, scanning the room until his hazel eyes locked on mine. God, it was like the first time all over again, that electric pull that had upended my world 3 years ago. We'd met in the unlikeliest place. A dive bar on the outskirts of Chicago, back when I was still grinding through night shifts at a warehouse to fund my online business degree, dreaming of anything but the Rust Belt decay of my hometown in Ohio. It was one of those sticky summer nights in 2022, the kind where the air conditioner wheezes like it's on its last legs, and the jukebox spits out Springsteen like it's the only truth left in the world. I was nursing a cheap beer, scrolling through emails from my sister Lena. "Elias, the truck's transmission is shot again. Can you wire $500? Mom's meds are piling up." When he slid onto the stool next to me, all broad shoulders and easy confidence, his flannel shirt rolled up to reveal forearms dusted with that perfect amount of hair that makes you wonder what else is hidden. "Bad night?" he'd asked, his voice low and warm, like aged bourbon, cutting through the din of laughter and clinking glasses. I glanced up, expecting the usual pitying stare from some straight bro trying to play hero, but his eyes, those damn eyes, held no judgment, just a quiet curiosity that made my chest tighten. I shrugged, muttering something about family obligations, and before I knew it we were talking about the grind of corporate America, the ache of loving people who only call when they need something, the way the Midwest chews you up and spits you out if you dare to be anything other than normal. Turns out, Cameron was a graphic designer from Seattle, in town for a freelance gig at a local ad agency, crashing with a buddy to save on hotel costs. He was out and proud, no apologies, the kind of guy who'd grown up in a crunchy liberal family where rainbows were just another color on the palette. By the end of the night, we'd stumbled out into the humid dark, sharing a cigarette under the bar's flickering neon sign, and when he leaned in, hesitant at first, like he was testing the waters, our kiss tasted like possibility, like the sharp tang of freedom I'd forgotten existed. "Come with me?" he'd whispered against my lips, his hand cupping the back of my neck, and I almost said yes right there, but the weight of my phone buzzing with another plea from home anchored me. That was the hook they had in me. Guilt, thick and unrelenting, forged in the fires of a childhood where I was the responsible one, the eldest son who patched the holes in everyone's lives while mine frayed at the edges. Over the next few months, our connection deepened in fits and starts. I'd drive the 4 hours to Chicago whenever I could steal a weekend, crashing in his cramped studio apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, where the waves crashed like applause for our stolen moments. We'd cook pasta from scratch, him teasing me about my Midwestern palate, me laughing as sauce splattered his shirt, and lose ourselves in marathons of old Hitchcock films, his head on my lap as the shadows played across his face. Cameron was the first person who'd ever seen me, really seen me, not as the family fixer but as Elias, the quiet dreamer with calloused hands and a heart too soft for its own good. "You're not their mule, babe," he'd say, tracing lazy circles on my back as we lay tangled in sheets that smelled like him, cedar and salt air. "You're mine." But distance is a cruel bastard, and so was my family. Mom's health had been slipping since Dad bailed, her lupus flaring like a vengeful ghost, and I'd been the one wiring money month after month for Lena's endless string of bad boyfriends and their emergencies. For Jake's gambling debts that left him couch surfing between bars. For Mom's copays that the insurance company fought like they were personal affronts. They called it love. I called it survival, but deep down, I knew it was leverage. When I finally mustered the courage to come out to them over a tense Thanksgiving dinner in 2021. Plates of dry turkey going cold as I choked out the words. Their response was a masterclass in conditional affection. Mom had patted my hand, murmuring, "As long as you're happy, sweetie." But her eyes darted to Jake, who muttered, "Just don't make it weird around the holidays." Lena had hugged me awkwardly, then immediately launched into a sob story about her latest eviction notice. No questions about my life, no curiosity about the man who'd make my heart race. Just a subtle shift, where my queerness became another reason to lean harder, as if being gay made me owe them more for sticking around. Cameron changed that slowly at first. He pushed me to set boundaries, to build something of my own. By early 2023, I'd graduated and landed a remote marketing job with a tech startup in Seattle. Coincidence? Hell no. It was his doing, forwarding my resume, hyping me up during those late-night calls when doubt clawed at me. "You're brilliant, Elias, and you're coming home to me," he'd say, his voice a lifeline across the miles. So I packed up my beat-up Ford, said goodbye to the sagging porch of our family home in Dayton, and headed west, the Rockies rising like a promise on the horizon. Seattle welcomed us with its perpetual drizzle and hipster coffee shops, but more importantly, with space to breathe. We rented a cozy craftsman bungalow in Capitol Hill, the kind with creaky floors and a backyard big enough for a fire pit where we'd roast marshmallows and talk about the future. Adopting a dog? Maybe, or road tripping down the Pacific Coast Highway. For the first time, I felt like I was living, not just enduring. Mornings started with his coffee brewing strong and black, the steam curling like our dreams as we planned client pitches over toast. Afternoons bled into evenings of sketching sessions, where I'd watch him hunched over his tablet, his brow furrowed in that adorable way, bringing logos to life with strokes that mirrored how he touched me, with intention, with care. Our love was quiet fire. Walks hand in hand through Pike Place Market, stealing kisses amid the fishmongers' shouts. Lazy Sundays in bed, debating the merits of Tom Waits versus Fleet Foxes. The way he'd pull me close during thunderstorms, whispering, "I've got you," until the thunder felt like applause. But the past has a way of seeping in like damp through old walls. Mom's calls grew more frequent after I moved, laced with that familiar tremor. "Elias, honey, the bills are stacking up. Jake lost his job again. Something about the economy, and Lena's little one's teething so bad, the daycare costs." I'd send what I could, dipping into our savings, telling myself it was temporary, that family was forever. Cameron never complained, but I saw the strain in his eyes, the way he'd squeeze my shoulder a little tighter after I'd hang up, guilt twisting my gut like a knife. "They're adults, Eli," he'd say gently, but I couldn't shake the fear that if I stopped, I'd prove them right, that I was selfish, ungrateful, the prodigal son who'd traded blood for that lifestyle. Then came the fall of 2025. Mom's latest flare-up hit hard. The doctors in Dayton talked chemo and experimental trials, costs that made my stomach drop. I flew back alone. Cameron had a deadline crunch and spent 2 weeks in that stifling house, sleeping on the lumpy couch while Jake chain smoked in the garage and Lena paced with her phone glued to her ear. I handled the paperwork, the hospital runs, the endless negotiations with Medicaid, all while Mom gripped my hand, her voice a rasp. "You're the good one, Elias. Always were." It broke me, that praise, because I knew it came with strings. Expectations I'd never escape. When I returned to Seattle, hollowed out an $8,000 lighter, Cameron was waiting at the airport with takeout pho and a bear hug that mended something inside me. "We're in this," he murmured, and for a while we were, but the cracks widened. Jake started texting at odd hours. Lena's ex trashed the place. "Need $2,000 to fix the door." Mom's treatments dragged on, and soon it was "just a loan, Eli, for the funeral plot in case." I sent it all, rationalizing, until our emergency fund dwindled to coffee money. Cameron and I fought. Not yelling, but the quiet kind that stings worse. Words like boundaries and resentment, hanging in the air like smoke. By November, Mom was fading fast, her hospice bed a prison of beeps and morphine drips. I flew back for good this time, promising Cameron it'd be weeks, not forever. He nodded, kissing my forehead, but his eyes said he was scared of losing me to them, of the man I'd become under their thumb. The last call, 2 nights before she slipped away, was her clearest in months. Elias, promise me you'll look after them. They're all I have. I promised, tears blurring the motel room's peeling wallpaper, because that's what you do when love and duty blur into one. She died on a Tuesday, the kind of gray Ohio dawn that feels like the world's holding its breath. The funeral was set for Friday, and by Thursday, the vultures circled. Jake cornered me in the kitchen, reeking of last night's whiskey. Estate's gotta cover the debts, right? That life insurance. Mom said it was for us. Lena chimed in from the doorway, her nails tapping impatiently. Yeah, Eli, and my car's on its last legs. We need to talk shares. Shares? Mom had left a shoebox of savings bonds and a paid-off double-wide, hardly a fortune. But to them it was manna, and I was the gatekeeper they planned to bully open. I stood there, staring at the coffee pot she'd loved, its cord frayed from years of use, and felt the rage bubble up, hot and unfamiliar. This isn't about money, I snapped, my voice cracking. It's her funeral. Jake laughed, a bitter bark. Everything's about money in this family, little brother. You think we don't know you're loaded out there with your fancy boyfriend? Time to pay up. The word boyfriend landed like a slap, casual, weaponized, the first time they'd acknowledged Cameron, and only to twist the knife. That night, alone in her empty bedroom, I called him, the phone trembling in my hand. They're turning it into a goddamn auction, I whispered, sobs choking me. I can't. I don't know how to stop it. His voice, steady as the Space Needle on a clear day, cut through. You don't have to. I'm booking a flight. We'll face it together. Relief flooded me, mingled with terror. What would they do when they saw him? Would they finally draw the line, disown me for real? Friday dawned with sheets of rain. The cemetery a sodden blur of black umbrellas and muffled sobs that felt more performative than genuine. The chapel service was a farce. Pastor Wilkins droning about heaven's gates while Jake fidgeted with his tie, eyes on his watch, and Lena scrolled her phone under the hymnal. I sat in the front row, numb, the weight of the eulogy I'd scribbled pressing on my chest. Elias will say a few words, the pastor announced, and as I rose, legs like lead, the doors groaned open. Cameron stepped in, water dripping from his coat, his gaze finding mine across the sea of stunned faces. The room went pin-drop silent, the organist's chord hanging unfinished. He walked the aisle with that unshakable grace, ignoring the whispers. Who's that? Elias's friend. Until he reached me, pulling me into an embrace that smelled of rain and home. I'm here, he said simply, loud enough for the front rows to hear. And in that moment, as my family's glares burned holes in my back, I felt the first crack of rebellion. The service blurred after that, my eulogy stumbling out in fragments about Mom's laugh, her secret recipe for apple pie, the way she'd hum Sinatra while folding laundry. Cameron sat beside me, his hand brushing mine under the pew, a silent anchor. But the real storm brewed at the graveside, under tents that flapped like battle flags in the wind. As the casket lowered, Jake sidled up, voice low and urgent. Listen, after this we need to settle up. Mom's will, it's all verbal, but you get it. Family first. I pulled away, rain mingling with tears on my face. Family? You mean the part where you treat me like a wallet? My voice rose, carrying over the patter, drawing eyes. Lena gasped, clutching her purse like a shield. Elias, don't what? Don't call it out? For years, I've been your ATM wiring cash while you trashed your lives. Mom deserved better than this circus. The words poured out, cathartic and raw, the grief twisting into fury. Jake's face reddened. You think you're better than us? Parading around with him? He jerked his chin at Cameron, who stood a step behind, fists clenched but silent, letting me lead, trusting me. The betrayal hit then, sharp as the wind. Jake had gone through Mom's papers the night before, borrowing the bonds to cover a bookie's debt, leaving the estate a hollow shell. It was just a loan to myself, he snarled when I confronted him. But the check stub in his wallet told the truth. Cashed that morning. Lena knew, of course. Her averted eyes screamed complicity. We needed it more, she whispered, as if poverty excused theft. I laughed, a broken sound swallowed by thunder. You stole from her, from us. And now you want me to foot the bill. The mourners shifted uncomfortably. Aunts and uncles who'd long ago washed their hands of the drama now witnessing the implosion. Cameron stepped forward then, his arm around my shoulders, voice calm but steel-edged. Elias has given enough. More than enough. This ends today. Jake lunged, half-drunk bravado propelling him. Who the hell are you two? But Cameron didn't flinch, his height and quiet authority diffusing the spark. I'm the man who loves him, the one who's seen what your family does. Sucks him dry and leaves him hollow. Back off. The words hung, a gauntlet thrown, and for the first time, my brother faltered, mumbling curses as he slunk back. The rest of the day dissolved into chaos. Arguments spilling into the parking lot, rain turning the gravel to mud, relatives scattering like leaves. Lena cornered me by the car, tears streaming. Eli, please, we're all we have. But her plea rang hollow, laced with the same manipulation that had chained me for years. No, I said, voice steady for the first time. You had me, and you lost that when you chose greed over grief. Cameron drove us to a roadside diner that night, the kind with checkered floors and pie under glass, neon buzzing open 24/7 like a beacon. We sat in a booth, hands intertwined across the formica, steam rising from our coffee. You were magnificent back there, he said, thumb stroking my knuckles. Brave as hell. I shook my head, the adrenaline crash leaving me shaky. I feel like I just burned it all down. What if? What if they come crawling back? He leaned in, eyes fierce. Let them. But you don't owe them your soul, Eli. You owe yourself. And us, this life we've built. His words wrapped around me, warm as the diner's glow, and I realized he was right. The betrayal stung, a fresh wound atop old scars. But it had freed something too. The permission to choose love over obligation. To grieve Mom on my terms, not theirs. We flew back to Seattle the next day, the plane slicing through clouds like a knife through fog. Home greeted us with blue skies and the scent of evergreens. Our bungalow a sanctuary. That first night, we sat by the fire pit, flames dancing as we toasted marshmallows. Burnt and sticky, just how I liked them. To new beginnings, Cameron said, clinking his stick against mine, and I smiled, real and unburdened, the weight of Dayton lifting like mist in the sun. Months passed, and the calls came, tentative at first, then pleading. Jake sobered up, joined AA, sent a halting apology letter that I read but didn't reply to. Lena got a job at the local library, started therapy. Her texts shifting from demands to, "How are you holding up?" I responded politely, kept a distance, wired nothing. Therapy of my own helped unpack the guilt, the internalized script that said my worth was tied to provision. Cameron was there through it all, his love a constant. Surprise picnics in Discovery Park, where we'd watch seals bark at the waves. Quiet anniversaries marked with custom sketches of our dreams. A house with a picket fence, someday kids if the world allowed. One crisp autumn evening, a year after the funeral, I got a package from Ohio, Mom's old recipe box, yellowed cards in her looping script, accompanied by a note from Lena. She wanted you to have this. We're trying, Eli. For real. I cried then, not from pain but release, and called them back. Not to forgive wholesale, but to start. One step at a time, I said, echoing Cameron's mantra. As we lay in bed that night, his head on my chest, heartbeat syncing with mine, I whispered, "Thank you for walking in that day." He tilted up, kissing me soft and sure. Wouldn't have missed it. You're my family now. And in the quiet, with the city humming beyond our window, I knew he was right. Blood may bind, but love, fierce, chosen, unyielding, freeze. We'd built something unbreakable, not in spite of the storm, but because of it. In the heart of America, where rust meets rain and dreams clash with duty, we'd found our way home, to each other.